Hello everyone. In the continuation of our short SFDR series, we discuss the position of non-EU AFMs, but also the position of non-EU asset managers and non-EU financial advisors. In the letter sent by the Joint Committee to the European Commission, it was addressed that it is not clear whether the SFDR applies to non-EU AFMs. However, it was not being addressed whether it applies to non-EU asset managers or non-EU financial advisors. In this short contribution, I will try to clarify whether, in my opinion, this is the case and should be the case. As to non-EU AFMs, it is indeed very unclear whether the SFDR and its material scope apply to these type of fund managers or not. Similarly to small AFMs, the SFDR in its scope refers to alternative investment fund managers as defined in the AFMD. This definition in itself does not clarify whether it applies to authorized AFMs, registered AFMs, EU AFMs and non-EU AFMs. So what we see in a certain number of EU initiatives, such as the PEP regulation, is that it is specified that it applies to, for example, authorized AFMs. But this is, with respect to the SFDR, not the case. Then having said that, with respect to financial advisors and asset managers as defined in MiFID, it refers to the investment firm definition as let down in MiFID. If we have a little look into MiFID, we see that there is the investment firm definition, which applies to EU entities, and the so-called third country firm definition, which applies to entities which would have been either a credit institution or an investment firm when they would have been established in the EU. So based upon this, these type of third country entities, in this respect then the non-EU asset managers and non-EU financial advisors, seem not to be included in the scope of the SFDR. However, having a look into the FAQ that was recently published with respect to the taxonomy regulation, a lot becomes even unclearer. In the FAQ there is one question targeting non-EU entities, and this specifies for financial market participants such as AFMs and asset managers that once a financial product is being offered in the EU, the SFDR should apply regardless of where the financial market participant is being located. So this would suggest that at least the financial product obligations of the SFDR, which pertain to the pre-contractual disclosure documents, but also to the periodic disclosure documents, would be in any case applicable to financial market participants offering financial products in the EU. So how should we all see this? Is it also clear? I mean, how does it apply to non-EU AFMs, non-EU asset managers or non-EU financial advisors? For non-EU AFMs, it is clear that when you offer a non-EU AIF in Europe, the third country regime obligations need to be respected if they are applicable. So each individual member state should decide whether this is applicable or not and what obligations would apply to the non-EU AFM when such an AIF would be marketed in their jurisdiction. From Article 42 in this respect, it is clear that in any case, with regard to non-EU alternative investment funds, the Article 23 pre-contractual disclosure obligations with respect to AIFs marketed by non-EU AFMs in Europe would be applicable. The same holds true for the annual report obligations of the SFDR, as reference is being made to Article 22, which is also referenced to in Article 42 of the AIFMD. So how does this relate to non-EU asset managers? Well, asset managers could offer managed accounts in one of the European member states because they are defined as a separate financial product. And for these products, the third country regimes of the individual member states would need to determine whether and to what extent the SFDR would apply. With respect to this, there's no certainty, and also the joint committee letter is not making any reference to this. So how is it then for asset managers which are appointed as a delegate by AIFMs? Well, to these asset managers, they are delegates, so they are not itself subject to the SFDR because they are a delegate. So then the contractual provisions in the agreement between the AIFM in Europe, which is subject to the SFDR, and the non-EU asset manager could determine in the agreement framework that the asset manager would need to deliver certain data for the AIFM to comply with its own obligations. For financial advisors, a similar type of reasoning could be applied. Financial advisors could advise upon financial instruments and financial instruments to clients in Europe. Again, if these are others than simply for a dedicated fund manager, then of course it could be the case that the individual third country regime of an individual member state would determine that the SFD would be applicable to them. Anyhow, the joint committee letter is also not making any reference to this uncertainty, so it would need to be awaited whether national regulators or the European regulator will clarify what is actually applicable to all these types of third country entities. Having said this, thanks for watching this video. Hope to see you next time. Bye.